So do you feel like the past is weighing you down and it's preventing you from living the life you want to live and either being who you want to be or who you authentically are inside? Well, today we're going to talk all about that. I'll be talking about how to help you let go of the past and doing it myself and helping clients as part of a success creation process, coaching over the last decade plus, and including what does it mean to actually let go of the past and to help you find a way to free up even just a little bit right here in this video. Because freedom is where the expansion is, and an expansion, that's where we can create and we can also live more authentically, be our most authentic selves. So Coach David here. If you are new, welcome. And if you're a subscriber, welcome back. And by the way, before we jump in, I have a free success meditation download. If creating more success in your life is something that you are interested in, whether it's your career, business, and your relationships, any area of life that matters to you, and you just want to up level and have more success, then I have a really cool free success meditation. I've been using this for years, not only personally, but with clients, gotten a lot of good feedback as a very supportive tool in helping clients get results. And so go ahead, there's a link in the comments below, and you can go download that. So let's dive in. So to begin, let's talk about what do we mean by the past and letting go of the past. Because while it might seem obvious, it's not. Most of us actually don't have a clear definition of what the past is. And so how I'm defining it here to make it workable and helpful so you can actually let go of the past is based of two elements. One, what happened on a factual event basis, neutrally, what happened. And the second piece is the narrative, the stories, the interpretations of the events that happened. So two things, right? The facts/events, which are neutral, and then the stories/narratives/perceptions of actually what happened. So let me give an example here to help clarify this. So growing up, let's say that Peter was spanked all the time by his father. So what happened was Peter was spanked by his father. And why did his father spank him? Well, we come to find out that Peter's father was in a bad mood a lot. In fact, he really didn't like his life. So that's why he did it. But the simple facts are, Peter's father spanked him. Peter might have been acting up. He might not have really been acting up. His father spanked him anyway because his father wasn't having a good life. And maybe it's because of the way his father was raised. Who knows? But those are the facts. Now, if we're to add a narrative into it, especially from Peter's side, it may be, well, I'm a bad kid. I'm fundamentally a bad kid. That's why I got spanked all the time. Let's say growing up, Peter didn't have the awareness to realize that his father, was this person who really didn't like his life and really, really maybe was self-hating, and he didn't know how to deal with it. Now, this isn't excusing Peter's father, but we're just looking at why this might have happened on a factual basis. But then Peter generates a narrative, well, I just must be a flawed human being fundamentally. I just must be really bad, and no matter what I do, it's never going to work out. And Peter generates this narrative, and he generates it subconsciously. He generates it not even knowing it until years later when he has a thought pattern of constant, things just don't ever work out for me because everything I do is bad, right? That's the narrative. Do you see that? That's what needs to be let go of. We can't let go of what happened in terms of the spanking, right? And the way Peter's father was, that's just the way it was. But that's not the part that affects Peter. Now, let's say Sarah was spanked growing up by her father, but Sarah somehow figured it out and realized, wow, Dad is just really not a happy person. This has nothing to do with me. I'm okay. This has everything to do with that. She would spin a different narrative of, you know what? Because I was able to endure that, I'm better and stronger and tougher for it. That's Sarah's narrative. Now, that narrative is one that may or may not want to be let go. I'm not saying 100%, though it's obviously, from my example, a more resourceful and powerful narrative, or, seemingly powerful and helpful than Peter's, obviously. There might be a point that Sarah runs into it that it affects her intimate relationships because she's always got to feel like she's got to endure it on her own. Maybe. But certainly it's still a better narrative than Peter's as far as being helpful to deal with life and succeed and whatever, right? I think we can all agree on that. So then what's the real thing here? Well, it's to realize is that we are not our narratives that we made up as we went, unbeknownst to us. We make these up and we don't even know it. We're just trying to cope and survive through an event. And whether it's a spanking or something worse or something, less physical, maybe it's a verbal thing or emotional thing, or it could be, nothing to do with parental relationships. It could be getting to a car accident. It could be being made fun of at school or being bullied, like happened to me and many people, right? Growing up. Whatever it is, we have to own and sort of take responsibility for the fact that we have these narratives. And if we continue listening to them and believing them as true, nothing is going to change in our life and we're going to be held back by the past. So we have to sort of take responsibility for it, even though it wasn't our fault. At some point, we have to make that choice and go, okay, I have to own this in order to be free of it and to let go of it. That's the only way it works. I've tried every way under the sun not to do it that way. Right? I've played victim to what happened to me. And what I know is that there's no freedom in that ultimately. It doesn't mean that, it was our fault again. We all have things happen to us. We all quote unquote get victimized at some point, big or small. But if we continue playing the victim by believing the narrative that we used to survive or cope, there will be no freedom. There will be no freedom. So along with that, it's really important to practice self-care, like self-love, self-compassion, self-empathy, whatever you want to call it, right? Being kind to ourselves while at the same time owning it and taking responsibility. Those two aren't mutually exclusive. They can exist in the same space, and it's very powerful when they do. Because the other thing that can be on the opposite of, saying, oh no, this happened to me, this is horrible, I'll never get over this, that shouldn't have happened, they did me wrong, or that event shouldn't have happened, right? Staying in quote unquote victim mode. The opposite is being an ultra self-blame, the opposite end of the spectrum that's not good, right? That continues the perpetuation. So if I take on an identity of it's all my fault and I'm such a loser and I'm so worthless, that's a narrative too. That's no good, right? That's no good. That's like overcorrection of responsibility, right? For owning this, letting go and owning the narrative, and that there's a narrative there in the first place, right? And so along with this, what I would say is to realize that these narratives that we spin generate our identity, who we think we are. So, which drives our behavior and what we get in our lives and how our lives are. So when you see and realize that we are not our narratives, we can let those narratives go and we can shift the narrative, right? Doesn't mean this is easy, but this is the way it works. Of course, the topic of forgiveness comes up, right? That's always something that's talked a lot about in terms of letting go of the past. Yes, forgiveness can be a powerful thing, but ultimately what we're talking about here is letting go of the beliefs and the narratives, right? If we're able to just say, you know what? I'm not going to buy into any of those narratives anymore. I'm not going to buy into the, horrible things that were said. I just realized that person was confused or sick in their own mind, and that has nothing to do with me. You actually wouldn't have to forgive the person. Now, it can be a powerful thing. Sometimes it's an extra step to forgive that person, whether you actually talk to that person if they're still around or not, or do a ritual or a practice of forgiving that person. And then there's also self-forgiveness. Sometimes there's a sense that comes up of, even if you were 5 years old and something happened and you generated an identity and a narrative just to get by, that somehow you should have known better, right? Self-forgiveness can be very powerful. To me, it's along the same lines of self-love. It's just a variation of that. But it's in my experience, it's not required. The reason I say that is I've tried a lot of this forgiveness stuff. And while it made a little bit of an impact, it didn't make a major impact of going, oh my gosh, I can just let the whole thing go. And I don't have to believe any of it. And I don't have to do anything. It's less work. It might go a bit deeper. And it's more of a deeper kind of realization. But all this forgiveness stuff and all this kind of doing, I don't have to do any of that. I just have to go, That's just the way mom was. Has nothing to do with me. And I know this because I actually did a forgiveness thing with my mom before she passed away around something. And while it helped for a little bit, it didn't actually let go of the issue, right? Until doing my own kind of awareness work and going, it's these narratives that are going on that are a real issue now. Because, well, mom's not doing that anymore, first of all, and mom's not even here. She passed away. So I'm constantly lugging the past around with me, right? So I'm tired of this luggage. I want to let this go. What's it going to take? What do I have to own up to and really let go here? And what narrative do I need to put in place? Because what I found is we don't tend to do too well, letting go and not putting something to go towards. Our minds don't work so well leaving it empty. On the opposite hand, it's sort of like if you've ever tried, creating here, here's who I want to be. And we've got all these blocks that we need to let go of, which are generally past-based, then it can be hard to do it. So we've got to work both sides of the equation here, right? And here's the interesting thing about identity, is that as soon as I say, I'm David, I'm a coach, I'm somebody who loves the arts, and I like spirituality, I also like science, like the blend of these things, I like philosophical discussion, I like the beach, I like the mountains. As I say that, it's already in the past. Anything that's our identity is in the past. So the good news is at any point that we realize that, we can let go of any particular identity that doesn't serve us, right? Identity is shiftable. It's changeable. It is not fixed or static. Just like the future and the past are not static and they're actually not real. There's no scientific basis, my friends, that the future and the past actually exist. The only thing that exists is the present moment. And this is easily provable through logic, but it's also been being proved through physics. Things like quantum physics basically point to this. There's no evidence that the past and the future happen behind and forward. I've seen quantum physicists say that. It doesn't make any sense, actually, in terms of physics. And spirituality, certain forms have long known this. So, hey, congratulations, science. You're finally catching up to legitimate forms of spirituality, right? Not everything is legitimate, whether science or spirituality. So what's that mean? Well, that means I can sort of reinvent myself, especially through narrative, anytime that I want to. Anytime that it might be helpful or useful to me. And you don't have to, but obviously it's useful in the case of letting go of the past. So let's go back to the example of Peter, who finally realizes, oh my gosh, Dad hated life. He hated himself. He took it out on me. He didn't know any better. And that's just how it was. Well, I'm actually seeing and beginning to see that I made up this narrative that I'm a loser and I'm no good and everything I do is bad and wrong. I'm not going to buy into that anymore. So what would be useful for me to step into as a narrative or set of narratives that generate a new identity? And Peter looks at it and decides, well, you know what? Similar to Sarah, he goes, I'm stronger for it, but you know what? I really have a lot of empathy and compassion for my father. I now realize how tough of a childhood he had. And what he did to me was nothing in comparison to what happened to him. Again, I'm not saying to justify it. I'm just giving an example of what Peter may say. Maybe Peter would say something different. Maybe he would go, you know what? Well, I'm not going to worry about what happened to Dad or what happened to him. It just doesn't have anything to do with me. And I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to be kind of like neutral Peter. And I'm just going to go have fun. I don't know. I think there's a lot of lessons that can also be pulled out of doing a process like this and realizing we're not our narratives and teasing out what was fact and what's interpretation, which, by the way, most of it is interpretation, especially if we're being emotionally affected by it and it's really holding us back. The majority of the past, quote unquote, is the narrative or interpretation. And so that's what needs to be let go of, right? And so not a topic for this video, but there are many processes of acceptance. I like the term allowing, of letting go, of releasing. There are processes like EFT, more alternative, Sedona method, release technique, which I like fundamentally. I find the simpler the better. For me, in my life, awareness with sort of just a letting go and maybe some breathing and doing an intentional practice like that is very helpful and very simple. Ongoingly, in moments where I come into blocks or obstacles, right, when I'm up against things and who I think I am, but certainly that creation process. And when I work with clients, I talk about kind of a triangle. One is always the present moment and awareness, right? That's one part of the triangle. One part is releasing the past, and also any blocks or any challenges or any obstacles, internal especially, that come up. We can acknowledge those and we can just kind of let it go. We don't have to ruminate on them. We can just let it flow and go away, because it will if we don't hold on to it and attach to it and focus on it and think about it and ruminate on it, right? Obsess. We can just let it go. And then the third is the creation. What are we going towards? Who do I want to bring out more of that's inside of me? Or who do I want to become more like? So as an example, I had a client, let's call him Nick, not his real name, but his name starts with an N, but let's call him Nick, who came to me wanting to work on his social confidence. And he said, you know, my father is really quiet, but he doesn't seem to care about being social with people. And I go, that's great. Nobody says he has to, but the reason you're here, Nick, is because you have a desire. You know there's somebody inside of you that actually really enjoys being around people, that likes connecting, that likes talking. Otherwise, if you didn't have that desire, you wouldn't have reached out to me and we wouldn't be having this conversation and, gotten you, started into coaching. And he goes, you're right. But I also had him verify that. Take a look inside. What is your sense of this, right? How did you get here? Because if you were like your dad, you would just be living your life in your own version of that, right? So I'm curious to hear what you think at this point. Drop a comment below. What is your experience of the past? How the past might be holding you back now or in the past, right? If you've let go of stuff. And what have you done or tried to let go of the past so that you could live the life you want, so you could experience more of what you want to experience? Drop a comment below and let's have a little back and forth about that. Also, smash the like button, because what that does, if you found this helpful, it tells the algorithm, hey, if you like it, we should push it out more to people that are searching for this type of content or who need help with this. So that's what the like button actually does. Also, if you are new, I hope you enjoyed this. Hit subscribe for more content like this to make sure that you get notified, and hit the notification bell so you know right when it comes out, to help you create the life you want. That's what we're all about here on the channel. And once again, the free download link is below in the comments, in the description. The free success download. I walk you through how to prepare to do the process, and it's a really cool process with some music. I use a little brain entrainment track that helps get you in state, and I do some gentle guided instructions. It's a very flexible kind of container for you to create your own vision of what you want to create in your life and help move you towards that. A really supportive tool that has helped a lot of my clients out, and it's free for you at the link below. And so letting go of the past is absolutely something that we all can do. I've done it. There are still things that I'm working on that have even happened in the more recent past, but I've made great strides on doing the exact things I've told you about here. This is real experience stuff, and also worked with clients on, real life coaching clients. And so I really, really, truly hope this has helped you. Thank you so much for your time, and we are complete. We'll see you next video.